Welcome to Good Horses, Stories of the American Quarter Horse. I'm Jim Jennings.
And I'm Bobby Loran. We're excited to bring you the stories of the horses that have made a lasting impact on some of the most legendary figures in the quarter horse industry. Each episode, we'll hear about the horses that challenged them, taught them, and left a special mark on their lives.
From remarkable lessons to unforgettable rides, these are the stories that celebrate the heart, soul, and horsepower of the American quarter horse.
This episode is brought to you by...
With performance horses, every move matters. Your horses train hard every day, and you need ground that keeps them comfortable, sound, and confident. That's why professionals like Adon use Arena Works, because it works. It's easy to adjust, built to last, and keeps your horses working at their best. And no matter what you ride, cutting, cowhorse, reining, or more, good ground makes all the difference. Arena Works is the official drag of NRHA, NRCHA, and AQHA, plus the go-to for Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, NSBA World, the Run for a Million, Shot, and more. To learn more, call 800-644-3724 or visit www.arenaworks.com. Arena Works, making dirt great again.
Welcome to the Good Horses podcast. I'm Bobby Loran, and I'm here with Becky Newell. And let me tell you, today's guest is a cutting horse legend. We're so excited to talk with Adan Banuelos, and his resume is a mile long. He is an NCHA Hall of Famer. He's an Open Futurity winner. He's a two-time American Performance Horseman winner in the cutting. He's also a $7 million cowboy. He's earned over $7 million in his career so far. And not to mention, he's also a prodigy of his family as he continues the family's legacy in the Western industry. So, Adon, thank you for having us today.
No, thank you all for being here. Thank you for the opportunity and being able to talk about horses. Like, horses are everything to me. So the fact that this podcast is all about the horse is one of my favorite things to talk about.
Yeah, I know. We can't wait to hear about them all, how they shaped your life and your career. So let's get into it. Let's start from the beginning and talk about your family and how growing up with American and Mexican influence specifically shaped your connection to horses.
Yes, ma'am. So my I have a big family, and I was raised in an environment to where we were very fortunate to have horses, and I think that there's a lot of people now that horses become a tool, and become like a checkbook or become a way to make a living. But as far as my family goes, like, I don't remember one time that we ever looked at a horse that was seen as dollar signs, while my dad went through to get here and to give my family an opportunity, there's just no way that it's impossible to me to see a horse that way, and which all goes back, credit to my dad. It's a great thing. Like, a lot of people take things for granted, and I'm not saying, not everybody. There's a lot of people that I'm surrounded by that are great horsemen and have helped me along the way, but being able to grow with a passion and a love for horses has probably been one of the biggest positive influences that I've had in my career. And no horses, no us,
Right.
So we wouldn't be sitting here today without horses, for sure.
So I loved how you mentioned your dad and growing up with him being a top of the world trainer, top of his game. I mean, how did that redefine what a horseman meant to you?
Knowing what my dad had been through, to give opportunity and to really because like, we think it's hard now, and it helps a lot whenever you look back and you're remembering or trying to consider yourself in the same position as your dad, and my dad running away from home at 13 and lying about his age to say he was 18 to get a job and this and that. And that's real pressure to me, like we think walking to the herd of the fraternity finals is pressure. We think, this is the best 3-year-old I've had pressure. It puts things in perspective whenever you really consider, like, I don't know if I can get through the rest of the month with this paycheck type of pressure. That's pressure.
Yes.
And how my dad managed to keep his composure, which my mom had a lot to do with it, because even to this day, my mom, I could win a cutting and she'll walk straight up to me and she'll be like, "That was terrible." Not terrible, but like, "Hey, you moved your hand," or, "Hey, your horse looked worried," or, "I don't like that bridle." It's her favorite thing is she doesn't like certain bridles. And so maintaining the passion and composure and being able to separate the two, which is from pressure to a relationship with a mammal that outweighs you times 10, and being able to get the most encouragement and positivity out of the horse to be able to help you get on the map, while on this other side of your head you've got real pressure, and you've got a lot of family depending on you, and my dad was sending a bunch of money back to Mexico for everybody, and that to me is like a real, that's pretty cool, and Ray Lewis, he said it one time, which I'm a very positive person, so one of this football team's biggest defeats, he says, "Hey, we did what we're supposed to do. We performed, and there's people out there with real problems, and that stuck with me. That I saw that when I was like 19, 20, and 15, 16, 17 years ago, I saw that, and that's how my dad, they look very different, Ray Lewis and my dad, but it's a huge reminder of, like, no matter what happens today, we're blessed to be able to do it. And when you go through that door and you're having the worst day, you go out there and you make somebody smile. You say, "Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am," and try to pick people up, because the opportunity that you have in front of you is why we're here. Everybody wants to be here to win, but at the end of the day, there's only one winner. But the opportunity is why we sign up, and this country's created opportunity for people that you can't compare it to any other place. So I think that there's some things that the cowboy has kept on the table, as far as integrity, and as far as just having some morals along the way, and the passion for horses that my family carries. There's only a few families that I've seen that I would compete against as far as my family goes.
Yeah. I mean, you truly have your heart on your sleeve, and it's so evident that family is everything to you. And
very much.
Yeah, we just love that y'all are all about the horse, because that's what we're all about.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's talk about some horses. I mean, growing up, did your dad have any certain horses in his string that were just unforgettable to you?
Well, yes,
unforgettable good.
Well, no, there's both kinds, there's horses that, and being able to separate one from the other, because when you reach a certain point in your career, you sometimes you do get off of a horse that really is not, everybody pays the same price in training. So you have to give an equal amount of effort. And I did as a kid. I hated school, and I wanted to be in the barn as much as possible. And thank goodness my perseverance about getting out of school succeeded. So I went to like the second day of third grade, and I was so happy when it was the end of it. But I do remember, and this is going to be, my dad's going to hate this, but there was a mare named Doc Mary, and where I grew up, or wherever I was raised, I'm not saying I grew up yet, but where I was raised, the indoor was probably 200-300 yards from the round pen. And my dad had everybody kind of scared, back then, because he was at the top of his game. He's very intense. He's focused and this and that. And I saw my dad get bucked off twice that day on his best horse, on his very best horse.
Wow.
And he was the only one out there. So my uncles, Carlos, Cookie, Diego, and Joe, we all kind of looked out that way, and there's dust flying, and then all of a sudden he's on the ground again. And he ended up winning the first round of the fraternity on this horse. But we said, hey, how's it going out there? And I would never say this, but his brothers did, my uncles. And he said, no, we had great work. But he was hoping nobody saw it. But we all saw it. We all saw it. But being able to go, just a week before the fraternity and having all that happen and get back on and promote confidence and be easy with a horse, those are lessons that you don't really, people don't teach anymore. And yeah, like I do believe that God put me on this planet to ride horses, and obviously horses kind of magnetize, or my dad was magnetized towards horses because I do believe that he was put here in the same way. But whenever you come across the border illegally and you run away from home and you're working on getting your papers and this and that, and the horse bucks you off in the fraternities in 4 or 5 days, that's real love to not get on and address that issue. The horse was working a cow fine, but didn't like the jockey, or any jockey. And so that's just a real testimony of how you can separate the two to me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible.
It's a very old memory.
And they say sometimes your worst practice is right before you go compete, and then you win.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's just an amazing story to hear.
Yes, ma'am.
From even that far back.
Yes. Well, and when it comes to that, because that is true sometimes, I do believe that there's a few memories that the only reason people really say that is because they're trying to find the positive.
Yes.
At a oh shit moment. Like, man, I didn't get worked very good this morning and this and that. And a great friend of mine, Sean Flynn, he the year I won the fraternity on Allspice, he's like, hey, why are you so worried about today's work? He's like, you've been working this horse, and like, you've done the homework, you've done what you need to do to promote the right things, and you cut a bad cow this morning at home, or she was a little fresh, or who knows what, but it really all comes down to, we really care as competitors.
Yep.
So the adrenaline, if you're not feeling the nerves, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, right.
And I don't think that there's anybody that I really respect that doesn't feel the nerves, but the people that I respect are the ones that are able to control the nerves, and there's this saying that says that there's nothing wrong with butterflies if you can get them to fly in formation.
Yeah.
Which is very hard, and I don't think anybody's really got it conquered.
No.
But the idea of it is what we all shoot for. And the people that say, oh, you had a terrible work, today's going to be great, those are real friends, because there's nothing left to say. I mean, you can't go work your horse. You can't go, have another month. You can't, it's time to compete. So when people say that means that they really care about you, and they're trying to find the best thing to tell you before you walk to the herd, because they want to help you and they want to see you do good, which is very rare in this industry that we're in. Is the last thing that I can think of that people don't hurt other people or sabotage anybody to get ahead, because you might post your best score. It might change your whole life, the score that you've got put up there. But then you get on your turnback horse and you turn around and you go help the next guy try to beat your score if you're a good human,
Right.
And everybody else now, like, they don't care if you ever walk again. They don't care everybody's looking out for themselves, and I get it, but at the same time, as far as this country goes,
Mm-hmm.
it's really refreshing to have a sport like that left,
Yeah.
to where if it's not my day, it's not my day.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to win whenever I'm the best.
Mhm.
You know, I don't want to win because I kept a secret or I, didn't. I would die
Mhm.
Yeah.
if that ever happened.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
And two, I think the fact that they try to show you the positive, it's also because they've seen you put in the work
Yeah.
and they see
That's
the
true,
relationship
too.
you have with that animal.
That's
Right.
very true.
And I think that's where that positivity comes from. Is,
Yes, ma'am.
you know what? It was one bad go. Move on.
Yeah, they
And
just,
go do
Well,
your thing.
Yes. And it takes a while, like talking to younger people that are trying to get started and this and that, like those guys are supposed to be a little quiet.
Mhm.
Your idols are supposed to be a little quiet
Yep.
because if they're not, when they say something, it doesn't
Mean
really
anything.
hit home,
Mhm.
right.
and you really want to talk to them and you really want some advice and you really, but they already know that you're not ready,
Yep.
and then later on down the road when they say something, it might be a whisper, it might be a look,
Mhm.
for all you know, but it hits real deep. And if they start giving you the look or giving you advice too soon, it's just another word, it's just another thing, and you don't fully appreciate it until you're ready. And they know when you're ready because the people that are really good at this are really good at managing brains.
Yep.
And I don't know who would be better at managing brains than people that are depending on a horse to put food in their fridge,
Mhm.
know English,
Mhm.
way stronger, and getting a horse to show up in a event that you have to put your hand down.
Mhm.
And there's not that many events that you have to put your hand down.
Yeah.
So it's like we all want to say Jesus take the wheel, but Jesus is busy sometimes. So it's whatever relationship you two have is how he's going to perform.
Yep.
Right.
And it could be positive or it could be negative. It could be, a little threatened. It could be a little edgy.
Mhm.
And trying to paint the prettiest picture that we can,
Mhm.
which all revolves around confidence.
Yeah, it really boils down to all the preparation and just letting all that prep meet its
Yes.
opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, and having the people to see it through. That's incredible. So let's talk a little bit more about the horses you had growing up. I mean, you competed at AQHA, our world show. Who were your special horses during that time?
I've been on a lot of horses. And there's some horses that have never been heard of that will probably not come across as, famous or anything like that. But
But they're
it,
so important.
very
They made
much,
you who you are.
very much, because if they would have been easier, I would have never got the opportunity to get on them.
Amen.
And it all, my Uncle Carlos was a huge, huge influence in my life, and his understanding and his confidence in what a horse was thinking,
Mhm.
whether it was going to take 6 months to get it or but he knew which horses were worth it and which horses were capable.
Right.
And that's another thing about my dad is that a horse's capability doesn't mean today's the day you're going to see it, So the consistency in persevering a goal at each other's time
Mhm.
is super important, because what we do is all about the peak, and learning how to peak a horse and learning how to give it back. And in my opinion, there's no horse out there that can constantly stay peaked.
Oh, no.
And if they won the show last week and you see them the next day working the same way,
Mhm.
it's a ticking time bomb, in my opinion, just for the way that I feel horses. And there was this horse named Trona's Choice, and he's got a plaque up there. And this horse, until he was 3.5 years old, lived in a halter in a stall. Like, you
Wow.
couldn't catch him. and his parrot mouth was like this big. Like you could put your whole hand in there and he wouldn't bite it.
Oh my God.
Even if he was biting,
Right.
he couldn't succeed. And very skittish horse. And it was my mom's horse. And so I would say that's the first one that I really got on that I felt outmatched.
Really?
Yes. And when you're a kid and your parents promote confidence in you,
Mm-hmm.
and you get on a lot of horses, you think that you got it. And then they turn you loose on one that's like, I don't know if he's ready, but his ego's getting in the way, so let's go ahead and try. And then you're like, oh my goodness, like that's a lot, you know? And then that's the next stepping stone, and you try to grow with what you thought you knew. And feeling a horse like that at that moment really shut me up. You know, you go back to the drawing board and you're like, I thought I had it, but I don't. and so AQHA and Augusta, and the first saddle I ever won was Trona Choices, and then once you get into, I left to rodeo for a little while, and I moved to Vegas. And Mr. Wes Adams was a great man to me. He treated me very well, but he started a program called the Millionaire Program. And I had already gone off to rodeo or rope, and then I was roping calves on this horse that was a millionaire. He was a Bodie Boonsball or something, I think. And I went to turn back for my dad at the first millionaire cutting. And as I'm turning back, this horse kind of turned, kind of this and that, you know, and my dad said, hey, why don't we give it a shot, you know, and enter him? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, that's a terrible idea. And so Farron Hightower gets on this horse, and he put a different bottle on him, and he kind of got him once or twice. And Farron and my dad were talking, and I could see this look in their eye that, like, I'm about to embarrass myself, you know? So my dad put me in, and we ended up winning.
No way.
We did. Yes, ma'am. And he was just roping calves that morning, this horse. That morning, we hauled him from Logandale to Vegas, which is about 60 miles, and come in to help my dad, hang out with my dad. I haven't seen him in a minute. And we ended up winning. So it's, there's horses out there that will get you places that people that are already in a place that you want to be don't really remember the other days, you know, and going, you know, just talking about the guys that are trying to get going. You've got to figure out a way to get a horse to try for you. They won't try for anyone else.
Right.
And it's so important that, you know, you see horses and you're like, my horse isn't doing that. You really don't know until you put your hand down in public, you know, like if you're promoting confidence, because if you watch me work in the mornings or during a show or whatever, like I hardly put my hand down, but remembering those opportunities that people trusted me with a horse in my first year of training, or like innovation time, was a huge, huge part of getting the ball rolling. And, Lizzie's Got a Babe, a huge part. You know, when I found Lizzie's Got a Babe, I walked out with Missy and Tim Drummond, and she was in a pasture with a bunch of broodmares and old Gildens, you know, and then we win the world, you know, the AQHA World Honor, and she'd already been turned out for it. Matt Budge trained her. He did a phenomenal job, but somewhere along the way, that horse just got kicked out. And thank God, you know, thank God, because you don't know there's just little moments that bring so much attention and business to you. And then if you're not ready and you get a special horse before you're ready, you'll push opportunity away from you
Yeah.
as well, because it takes a while to become a winning loser.
Yeah.
You know, like if losing is threatening to you, then it's like walking a tightrope and they're like, don't look down. I'm like, duh. Like, obviously you're not a friend. Why would you say don't look down? You know, I'm scared of heights already. So, which I'm not, but it's equivalent to the same thing, because it's about how good can I get this horse to be? It's not about I want this horse to be like that one, or I want this horse to win or anything. It's just about like, I know what this horse felt like a week ago or yesterday, and I just want to be just a little bit better, you know, and going through that process and maintaining that mentality will really get you there a lot quicker than trying to go win too soon.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the individuality of the horse.
It is.
And
Yes, ma'am.
it's like raising kids. One kid
Yes,
is not
ma'am.
the same as the other, and you have to treat them separately.
Yes, ma'am.
And differently, and
Yes.
you can push one a little harder than you can push the other. It's just that recognition of that horse.
Well, and also too, like just touching on that, like, you know, you see kids that great kids, beautiful kids, and great families and this and that, and then they go off to college and then they just run a mess, you know, and whenever you say it, that's hot, don't touch it. It's important that you allow opportunity to find out for yourself.
Right.
And a lot of times there will be a horse just wanting to turn, and you keep them from it. And it's better off to just let him turn and just be like, there's
Let 'em
nothing
learn.
over there, you know, like come back over here. And then it's like, you know, and the more you keep something from something, the more they want to find out.
Yes.
You know, and allowing mistakes is the only way to communicate with something that doesn't speak English, because then it's black and white, you know, and if you prevent it, then the curiosity remains in there, instead of just allowing it to happen and no pressure, just, hey, there's nothing over there, come back over here. And then they start learning a conscience. And in our sport, putting your hand down, a conscience is the most important thing.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, you just got to let the horse kind of make his own mind up sometimes, make his own decisions. So
Yes.
have you had a horse that has been so smart? I mean, that just gets it. Have you had one in particular? Which one is that?
No, Allspice.
Allspice.
Yes.
Amen.
Allspice.
She's
That
a
mare,
genius.
she's a genius.
I bet.
And never, you know, she really didn't, she didn't show off. Like, you know, you'd work at home and you wouldn't feel like you're getting anything done. But and then a cow would throw a little oops trick at you, and you'd feel something that's like, well, we never practiced that, you know, and
That was natural.
and
that was hard.
that's natural. And this mare was huge, you know, she's big, all muscle, very feminine, very, very ladylike in her composure, but no pun intended, but like ladylike. If you tried to change her, she was like, hell no. You know, like, this is my way, you know, and so learning to get along was important, because I actually got her to feel the way that I wanted to during a work for the second go round of the futurity, and I put my hand down, and she did everything that I wanted her to do, and I didn't like it. And I swear this mare kind of looked up, and she's like, was that what you wanted? And I was like, I'm so sorry, honey. I'm like, you go back to doing it the way you did it. And she said, okay, shut up and hold on. And you know, I'll do good here. And I said, yes, ma'am. And like, that's the only time she ever moved that way that I worked hard on getting her to like move a shoulder or bring her nose or whatever. And I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever done, you know, and thank God for her passion for the game, that she pushed me aside and followed through.
Now, you've ridden 2 of her siblings, right? And shown 2 of her siblings? Bad Boone
Bad Boone Rising, yes,
and
ma'am.
Storyteller also?
And Storyteller,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Are-
Incredible horses.
Yeah, incredible horses. You've done very well with them. Are they like her?
Yes, ma'am. Bad Boone Rising we call Bruce, and people think that I named him Bruce because of he's black and Bruce Wayne, you know.
Bruce Wayne.
But the truth is that he felt so good after we bought him that we give him 30 days off after we bought him at the 2-year-old sale. Mr. Roy Stalka put him through the sale, and this horse bucked so hard when we started back that it was Bruce because of Bruce Lee. You know, it wasn't Bruce from Batman.
That's
but
awesome.
He's black, so I let everybody believe that. But I was like, wow, this horse is very athletic because, like, we were holding on.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we were
He had
laughing.
something to say.
Yes, he did. But when he did that, he hadn't seen a cow in 30 days, and his excitement,
Yes.
you know, was too much to handle. And right then I went to maybe West Monroe or somewhere, and I left him to my dad for like a week, and he never tried it again, never. But that's how much cow and excitement that he had hidden in there, that he felt like just a good old boy, and then you put him on a cow, and this horse turned into like a lot of emotion about it.
Yeah.
And that horse really did a lot for me as far as learning sensitivity, you know, because when a horse has that much to offer like he did, and you keep asking for more, it's selfish.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that, you know, because the way he's offering it is because you're happy with this, and the horse will give you this, and then you start asking for this, and a horse will give you this, and going off of those two in comparison, he was a stud.
Yeah.
You know, so now it's two boys talking.
Yes.
You know, him and I, and he could do some of the coolest things. He wanted to crawl around, and I'm like, don't do that. and then we'd be cutting, and I was like, why aren't you crawling around no more? You know, and the way he dealt with me was great.
Yeah.
Because we're all learning.
Yeah.
You know, and this is difficult to say because there's people that trust me to just know what is right. You know, but at the end of the day, anybody that tells you they got the recipe without knowing the task, you know,
or the horse.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're kind of full of shit, because only really good horsemen will be like, well, I can see what you're talking about, but I don't know the horse, you know? So without knowing the horse, I really can't tell you, because everybody's different.
Yeah.
You know, we're all different, and they're all different. And storytellers, he's always at the movies, kind of, you know, like he's like the one that you'll be doing whatever, and he'll be like squirrel, you know, and but when he feels the intensity of a building, or he feels like a cow is acknowledged him, all that's out the window.
Yeah.
And he buckles down, and he gets so smart and so quick. Like, in my opinion, those really great horses, you don't really feel how good they are until the lights are on. Yeah. And we ruin a lot of great horses by trying to figure that out before the lights. And instead of just trusting the process, which takes a lot of losing along the way.
Yeah. That is so neat. So I noticed that Bruce, or Bad Boone Rising, is out of Once in a Blue Boone, and so was Twice in Santiago. Can you tell us a little bit about that horse?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Miss Gail. So Twice in Santiago came to me at the end of her 2-year-old year. Wes Ashlock had her before that, did a phenomenal job. Miss Gail Holmes and I go way back, and I owe most of my success to Gail and to the Quirks. They've they've been through thick and thin. You know, there's been a lot of thin moments or thick, I don't know which one's worse, but there's been a lot of moments to where it's like, why would you trust me right now? And we've had some great experiences that have put me in a position to create a life. And whenever Santa came, Twice in Santiago came, she was a little mare, you know, and she was real slinky cool, and she wanted to crawl around, and she wanted to, you know, do things that a horse her size should not be really capable of doing. And she found a way. I mean, her heart was bigger than her ability, you know, and if I had to trade ability for heart, I'd go heart every time. Because this mare, I remembered looking down, and we were at like in Idaho or something, and I thought we were going to lose a cow, and so I kind of used my feet more than I ever have on her, and I look down and I see her hind leg in front of my leg, and her front leg behind that leg, and I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. Like,
She's a pretzel.
I'm not even
seeing
gonna.
things.
She's a pretzel at this. She's a yoga instructor, and I just kind of like, I'm not gonna get you hurt over this, so I just kind of let off, and I'll be damned, this horse, like her heart, she didn't care if she left all legs over there. She's going, and we end up winning the show and this and that, but just the amount of trust that you have to have for the whole process that you've had since you met, and trusting it is so important, because nowadays everybody knows what's about to happen, so everybody prevents it, just like we were talking about kids. And to me, it's I know we've been through this, and you're going to make the right call. And if I try to help you, I'm just going to interrupt, because in a winning run, there's hardly no time to manipulate or to instigate things. Like on a horse, it's on a cow that's trying to beat you, and a horse is ready to win. If you get in the way, it doesn't take very much.
Yeah.
You know, you still have to be present and ready, but at the same time, it's all up to the horse a lot at that time. You know, 80-90% is up to the horse, and trusting that the horse will get out of a spot like that. It's important.
Being at the top of the food chain is no accident. Being at the top of the food chain requires a certain hunger. It's by design. It's by passion for the prize, for the hunt. Extreme intelligence. Extreme speed. Extreme confirmation. Storyteller, a horse of extremes.
So I loved how you said that Twice in Santiago had like the biggest heart, and you said you would go for heart over legs any day. So is there another horse that has had so much heart to display and just offer up in this type of discipline?
Is there another horse that showed the same amount of heart? And right, that's whenever I got nervous, because like it's tough. Like I love horses as much as people, and there's very few people that I love more than horses. So degrading or disrespecting horses, that there's too many to mention, and that's because God's really been good to me.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't ever want to quit or forget about the blessings that we've had and the opportunity that we've had, because there's so many good hands out there, you know, and the fact that they picked me to trust me with the investment, but to me, it's like they're bringing me a great friend, you know, like to me it's pretty much a golden ticket that they're handing me, and I'm charging them to take the ticket, you know, to reach my dreams. And so I'll never take that for granted. But you know, there's some horses that I would disrespect some people and some horses by naming some,
Yes.
and I just couldn't make myself do it. But it, you know, going back to the beginning, like Innovation Time, I don't know if anybody even remembers him or knows him or anything, but like that horse to me was my ticket in
Mm-hmm.
to being to have an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to make a finals.
Mhm.
You know, it's the first time I was in the chatter after my youth and non-pro days,
Mhm.
and I had some great horses before that, but I was too ignorant to appreciate the good, you know, and that horse put me in a position to where I felt like I could do things with horses that other people were struggling with.
Right.
And then you find out later on that there's some horses that you have, and because of no ego, which I hate egos, you send to another trainer. Like I've sent, you know, there was this horse that I sent to Lloyd Cox that I told the owner, Miss Dottie Hill's been a huge thing for me.
Mhm.
You know, Dottie and Bobby have been great to me, and they trust me with Classy CD Cat, and they, you know, Phil Hansen won the futurity, and then they asked me to ride her, and this horse was trained. Like I just pretty much just,
Got on.
got on, you know, and this horse was already phenomenal. But there's this one horse that was really well bred, and I thought she was allergic to money.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I thought she was allergic to progress, money, making people smile. She didn't, none of it. And I said, if Lloyd can't, then nobody
to reevaluate.
can,
Yeah.
you know. And then very next show, Lloyd kicked my butt on her, you know. And but I think that that's important as you're coming up through the deal, like as many blessings as you get and opportunities that you get, don't let your head get in the way and make you think that you got all the answers.
That's right.
Like do not let that happen, because that's whenever you start narrowing down. You know, we want to try to have a wide lane,
Mhm.
you know, then more horses fit in it.
Mhm.
But as soon as you get your mayonnaise and mustard too close together, very few horses are going to fit there.
Mhm.
You know, so having an arsenal of personalities, of approaches, of patience, and this and that, like that's where it all really ups your average a lot. And sometimes you're way further ahead by telling your customer that trusts you with all these horses, hey, this horse doesn't fit me,
Mhm.
and I respect this man, and I've seen him do amazing things with horses. Let's try it. You're way better off to go that way, because you'll continue getting people to trust you,
Mhm.
you know, and no trust, whether it's between the customers or the horses, no trust, there's no opportunity. Yeah.
And that was putting the horse first as well.
It is. Yes,
You
ma'am.
know, because she and you just didn't hit it off for one reason or another.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said, you know what? Let's give her a chance with this trainer.
Mhm.
Different
Yes.
personality.
Well, and I love the customers that much because, you know, we love horses more than anything, but I can't afford one, you know, so good luck riding a horse if you can't buy it, you know, so the people that trust you, you have to do what's best for them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like whether it's sending the horse somewhere else or just being straight up the first 2-3 weeks and saying, this is not for him
Mhm.
or her. Like this is, you're better off putting your money into something else or this horse somewhere else.
Yep.
But, it hurts at that time,
Mhm.
you know, because you're making less money and this and that. You're trying to, you know, accomplish life goals and stuff. And, but you're always better off just being upfront about this is what I think is best,
Mhm.
and your career will will kind of last
Mhm.
a little bit longer that way.
Okay, so I'm curious. When you get a horse that somebody sends to you, what is one of the first things you do with that horse? Do you go spend some time around them? I mean, I'm looking for some of the warm and fuzzy, and there may not be any warm and fuzzy here. It may be you just saddle her up and go ride her. What does that first introduction with that horse look like for you?
You say hi.
Yeah.
Like you're obviously you're not going to walk up and say hello, but like it depends. You might see the horse for the first time tied to a fence.
Mhm.
You might see the horse pull in on a trailer, and you can hear commotion.
Mhm.
You might see the way the horse got off the trailer. You might see the way the horse is trotting around before you ever get near it, and there's little telltale signs that good mamas have for kids and daddies, and the same with horse trainers.
Yeah.
There's little telltale signs to where you can tell if this horse is too confident and needs to, like, hey, we need to come back and you need to pay attention, or this horse is too sensitive and you need to promote confidence.
Mhm.
Like one of the things that I really believe in is that horse training is so easy
Mhm.
that it's hard to do.
Mhm.
Because everybody wants to win and everybody's effort is a lot,
Yeah.
but applying the appropriate amount of effort and pressure, you can't forget the release.
Yeah.
So a horse doesn't learn from pressure at all. No horse
No.
will never learn from pressure,
Mm-mm.
but it's impossible to release without pressure.
Mhm.
So a horse only learns from release.
Mhm.
So, you can create more problems by just promoting the release because there's no way to release without pressure.
Right.
And pressure comes off as a harsh word sometimes,
Yeah.
but pressure, like that's pressure.
Mhm.
Every horse is different. Some horses made out of metal and like you drive a truck in there and they like scratch my other rib now. Like who knows? But everybody's a little different. And being able to judge the right amount of pressure
Mhm.
so that you can find the right opportunity to release.
Yeah.
If you miss the first opportunity to release, then that now it's twice as long. If you miss the
Mhm.
second one, now it's quadrupled, and on you go. So being able to read that moment
Mhm.
of this horse is giving me a lot.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if it's doing good or not. We're trying to promote horses' integrity and effort and conscience.
Yep.
So finding the time to just, all right, good job.
Mhm.
And this horse, and sometimes you look stupid doing it because they're like, why would you quit right there? Like that horse just ran at the cow.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, at least he saw it.
Yeah.
Because 5 minutes ago he didn't even see the cow.
Baby steps.
Yes, like you gotta be realistic about knowing, like, whatever the biggest issue is, that's the goal.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to try to fix, the rib and the hip and the nose and the shoulder and the weight and the go and this and that, and it's just they don't speak English.
Yeah.
So whatever the biggest obstacle is, let's chip away at it.
Mhm.
And then once that one's disappeared, the next one's going to be easier, obviously, because it wasn't as big as the first one. But once you start throwing the book at it, because we're all capable, everybody's so talented now.
Mhm.
Everybody's capable. Everybody's talented. Everybody's so good. It's incredible. There's so many people that are better than me that are starving to death, and it's frustrating, but at the same time, I know my daddy did it, at the most crucial time to turn his life around, to make me and a family and this and that. Like, I know it's possible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just got to dig deep a little bit sometimes, find something good.
Yeah. There's always something good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Glass is
Amen.
always half full.
My daddy tried to sell me a horse one time, like 4 years ago, not that long ago. And I was like, Dad, I'm not sure if it likes that bridle. And he's like, oh, no, it does. And this horse kind of moves his tail. And I'm like, Daddy, he's kind of moving his tail a little bit. And he stopped and he's like, will you find something good about this horse already? He's like, but that's a funny story. But at the same time, you got to find something good.
Yeah.
Because if you only capitalize on the negative, that's what you get.
Yeah.
Right.
So find a quality and build on it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the negative will go away because a horse feels.
Yeah. They do.
Like, even though you might be kicking and pulling and you're like, this horse has no feel, but I'm telling you, on the inside, this horse is really wants to just hide in a dark room. So how do you bring a human out of a dark place? It's just confidence. Find something good and just be like,
Build it.
Whatever.
Yep.
Right. That just speaks volumes of your horsemanship, though, just building and promoting the horse's confidence. I mean, that just shows your true talent that you have. So,
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
You can make them too confident too sometimes.
Is there a horse in your
Just like
string?
my mom might say about me. Yes.
That's funny. Well, like you said, you got a few that'll keep you humble, right? That's awesome. All right. So going back to a lot of these horses that you've ridden, you said a lot of them have natural talent. They're just great movers. They have good minds. Is there any that are really overachievers that just want to give it all? Like, I know we talked about several of them.
Totally. Yeah. So I think as far as overachieving goes, there's been some horses that, since I was a kid, right? Like, my goal's always been that whenever a horse retires, I want a horse to go get turned out and wonder when it gets to work a cow again.
Yes.
I've never wanted a horse to get retired and be like, thank God that's over.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a couple horses that, without mentioning names, that I feel like if I could have a do-over, and honestly, Bad Boone Horizon's one of them. If I could have a shot at it again, I don't think that the public really got to see his full potential. And so, but it all comes from a good place. But because I was raised the way that I was raised, and because I feel what I feel for horses, I never wanted to interrupt a high integrity moment.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I tiptoed, and Mr. Buster and his family, they trusted me with it. And I've never said this out loud, by the way. And you're more than welcome to no editing on this part because it's true, there's no way you could, get this far in your career and not have a thought of, I could have done better,
The do-overs.
Yeah, you're a loser if you feel like you couldn't do any better. And so that horse to me was something that is by far the most expensive horse I've ever bought, for anybody. And Mr. Buster, when he started trusting me, with his business, like, he told me, he said straight up, he said, Adon, he's like, I'm eager to buy a good horse. And I kept waiting, and I was like, oh, we try it. Oh no, that's I'm a little skittish about it. And finally he just said, Adon, I'm telling you. And I've never had anybody talk to me like that, and he said, Adon, I'm wanting to buy a good horse. So you need to do it, or I'm going to find somebody that can do it. And I don't think that he would have gone anywhere else at that moment, but he was kind of treating me a little bit like I was in school for just a second. And he's like, hey, you're being a little too nice and you're being a little too cautious. Like, let's roll the dice. Well, the most expensive horse I had bought at that point was $60,000, and this horse brought 150.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and so now we're spending, I mean, $1 million is like Skittles. You know, it's like leaves falling off of a tree, and I'm so eat up on the inside, and these people are like, should we get a bottle of wine for dinner? And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, like, I'm stressing over it, like, I'm really stressed about this. And you guys are wondering about which wine? But it all goes back to what horses provide for people, because there's a lot of people in our industry that are passionate about it. And they could have, bought a NASCAR, they could have bought a yacht, they could have, anything. And the fact that these horses capture their attention and their passion, you can't compare it to anything. Right. And the fact that I'm one of the lucky ones that was trusted with it and messed up and continued to have opportunity. It's truly grateful, but I would say that Bad Horizon is the horse that to me was always offering more. And I caught a little shit from some friends that are judges, after, and they're like, man, if you'd have just kicked him one time, like, you could have won the futurity. And I'm like, sheesh. I'm like, dude, I'm so happy right now that I ended up second, and nobody knows if I would have just touched him. Like, we'd have been,
what really happened?
Like, that horse had so much left in the tank that I do remember working my second cow, and it's the first cow that I've ever worked that I just didn't have any responsibility on me, and I literally enjoyed the moment. I literally enjoyed that moment because I was like, oh, I'm about to have to do this. Nope. It's like, it was the most.
He read your mind.
Beautiful. Well, he like just got in rhythm, and we had a lot of moments like that afterwards. But that was the first moment that I felt in my, as long as I've been doing this, that I was just enjoying it and not stressing or not worrying or not anything. Like, I was like, hey, good job, dude. Yeah, it was really, really good.
And I love how you said that, we were so excited just to get second. I mean, it's those little moments that are more meaningful than the win. It's like, this horse gave me his all. What else could you ask for?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah. And winning comes in so many different forms.
Yes.
Right.
And when you go out to the barn and you're gonna try to make today productive. If you think about yesterday, and yesterday ended here, and today you want this, you're setting yourself up for failure a little bit. Yes. And if you look for the 1%, and we all spend more than 100 days on a horse, so at 1%, like, you're well over 100. But sometimes a horse will increase 3, 4, 5, 10% in a day, and you're looking for the 11th the next day. And a horse that, that, like I said, they're just here to please, but they have no idea, without consistent multiple days in a row, they have no idea. Like, yesterday was fun, so I gave you 10%. The next day, you're like, okay, now it's a job. I want that 11th percent. And then you end up negative 2, 3.
Yep.
And allowing a horse time to process information and create muscle memory. Sometimes our willingness to pursue and to win, we forget that just because that horse did that yesterday doesn't mean it's really set in. It's not embedded in there yet. Right. And we look for more, selfishly, and it'll bite you in the ass, and then you'll learn, and then, you keep trying again and again, and until you just get comfortable with win, lose, or draw, judges aside, public aside, like this is what I'm aiming for. I'm just aiming for a little better and a little better.
Right. That just falls back on like unlocking their potential, fostering that confidence, getting them
Yes,
out of their
ma'am.
shell. I mean, wow, I'm learning so much. This is just
Well, me
mind
too.
blown. Yeah. So in a sports that, I mean, just there's so many sports that are result driven. I mean, of course, here in the Western industry, it's very result driven. How do you measure those moments with clients, with people that you're helping, that like, hey, this is a win? Like, yeah, we might not have went out with the gold globe or the gold buckle, but like, you should be proud of yourself. How do you foster that confidence, not only in horses, but people too?
Yeah, well, it all depends on where you started.
Yeah.
You know, so a win is different to everybody. You know, the opportunity to walk to the herd for a lot of people is a win, and they could give a damn less if this horse runs out of the arena.
Right.
But the opportunity to walk into the Coliseum, and you know, there's people that we really have no idea what they've been through. You know, and there's so much riding on it for them. And so winning, to simplify it the best, is trying. Yes.
Yeah.
And that could be your horse, that could be yourself, you know, like, hey, we did terrible, but my horse tried. You know, that's a win. And I asked that same exact question when I was like 24, 25, and I asked Johnny Mitchell, because Johnny Mitchell's one of the most focused, intense competitors that also loves horses. You know, there's some intense competitors that it's like, who cares what this horse has to go through? I want to win. He's one of the most persistent, intense people that maintains the horse's thoughts in his mind.
Wow.
So I asked him that same question, and he goes, you know what? He goes, if I get to the finals or anywhere near the finals, he's like, I have to leave there thinking in each category that I enter. So if he enters, you know, 2 4-year-olds, 5 4-year-olds, and 3 or 4, 5, 6-year-olds, like, as long as he got, if you don't do that, you'll eat yourself up, you know? So, and a lot of times if you shoot for that, you might end up winning the show.
Right.
You show up trying to win the show, you might not even make it out of the first round.
Right.
It's the way it works. I don't know why, but it's because, you know, the devil's always tugging on us in a certain way. And the hardest thing to do is most of the time the right thing to do, you know? And when the devil stops knocking, then you got a real problem because he's already inside. You know? So like, if you're constantly pressing for that little bit better, which is hard to do because you know this horse has so much more to offer, but you don't ask for it. That horse will give you more than you're asking for, and you start asking for too much, and there's no way you're going to beat them. I mean, these horses are solid muscle, and they've been doing things way harder than this since the Pony Express. You know, like arrows in their butt and just running. You know, like they can endure way more than us. But it's important because if we mention all good horses that everybody knows about, it takes some confidence away from the guy that's trying on a horse that's not.
Yes.
You know, and it's important for young people to know that there's a way. Don't get used to trying to mold a horse. You know, like sometimes you got to adapt.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's a lot like women. Like, even if you're right, just say I'm sorry, and then they'll be like, oh, hey, I'm sorry too. Like, that was huge of you, you know, like, thank you for saying that, but I know that I was wrong. And just a little give, you'll get more. Yes. So it's important to mention horses like that, because if not, everybody just feels like we're chasing something that you can never get to.
Right.
And when was Innovation Time part of your career? What time period was this?
Oh, that was my first year in the Open.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So your debut.
Ish.
Ish.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I ruined a lot of horse before that. Yeah. Luckily for him.
So how did he come into your career? How did you get him?
He'd been through. He was a out of Sweet Short Alina, but I want to say he was a one-time Pepto. He was the most gorgeous horse ever. Like, he was gorgeous. But as pretty as he was, oh my goodness, this horse was hard-headed. And ended up being quite the opposite.
Wow.
You know, and he had been through 3 or 4 trainers already. And my Uncle Carlos initially had him. And my uncle left this world a little before his time, you know?
Oh.
So whenever that horse had already been to 2 or 3 people and he circled back to me out of chance, then it was like freaking awesome, you know?
Wow.
And so, but you know, also too, like, there's not that many people that look into like heart murmurs, you know, and this horse had a heart murmur. And his coat would never really get just right, you know, and you could feel that he was breathing harder than the amount that he'd been rode. And, but at that time, that horse, he had a heart murmur, and it would make you feel like he didn't care. But when the heart valves not opening enough to pump what the heart is producing, then it's just the oxygen's not there, you know, and so that was a big part of it. But also my dad, like my dad, he spent a lot of time on the horse, and just you could take my dad a Clydesdale, half Clydesdale, half donkey, and you could be like, Dad, I'm having trouble with this horse, and he'll be like, I'll show you.
I
You know?
got this.
But you could take him in allspice and be like, will you work this horse? He'll make 2 turns and he'll be like, this horse is great, you know? But you say you got a problem, and my dad will put every ounce of his ability into, this horse is going to win something. And it might be a Clydesdale. Like, I'm shit you not. Like, my dad is so into helping the little guy.
Yeah.
You know, like helping the horse is not supposed to. My dad will
The
create
underdogs,
more integrity in a horse than anybody I've ever seen.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I think that's your hidden signature move right there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe but I would never say that.
It's okay. We'll say it for you.
As soon as you start thinking like that, then it doesn't go good.
I
But
getcha.
but the more that you try to do it, then the better off you are. And yeah, and you know, speaking about things like that, like there's I remember as soon as I got my license, okay, I would drive to Weatherford, and I'd just hope to see a cutting horse trainer at a stoplight or something, you know, and I'd just be like, be cool, you know, don't look over there, you know. And I remember seeing Phil Rapp one time, and I was like, oh my God, like, this is a goosebumpville. And then you end up, you know, moving to Weatherford later on in your life, and then there's days where it gets old. Shame on me.
Yeah.
You know, shame on me, because how many people would really, and without, like, horses brought me to a place that I would waste diesel that I didn't have the money to pay for. Waste diesel just to go, just to maybe see somebody, you know? And there's people out there that are working in the sticks. They're working in the country. They're working, and they don't have anybody to kind of bounce off of, or have ideas, or feed off of, or be competitive against, or whatever. And those 1%, you know, like, there's a time where I would have done this for free, you know, and the fact that I get paid for it's incredible to me. And you have enough success or enough opportunity or enough stress that you forget that. And just me doing this interview podcast, like, it's huge as a reminder to me too, you know. So this is equally as good for me as it is for you, just to vent about some things that you put way back in your head and you forget, you know, how blessed and fortunate we are about it.
Right. Yeah.
Very cool.
So speaking about the journey to where you are now and how this has formed you and shaped you into the rider you are, I mean, Allspice, what did her career look like before she made it big?
Yeah, so we Mr. Royce owned her. Miss Gail and Miss Dottie were interested in her, and I tried the mare like let's say before the bash, so early October, I'm guessing. Horse felt like, wow, you know, and we never got out of a walk. And then now it's getting serious. Just before the futurity, it's getting serious, and she comes back, and Mr. Royce is a different creature. Okay, this Mr. Royce, he is something else now. He's like, I'd be just like finally getting in the groove, you know, and all slow, all very slow. And he'd come trotting up there. He's wiry. He's so energetic, and he's like 100 years old, this guy. And I'm sorry, Royce. No, you're not. But he's, I mean, you wouldn't expect him just, hey, Dawn, a lot of that stuff that she's doing, like, I want you to know I spend a lot of time teaching her that. And I'm like, don't ruin my dreams right now. You know, like, I'm thinking this is all her. You know, like, and so anyways, he's one of the most honest people. And so anyways, we go through with it, and I have about 10 days, 2 weeks on the mare to myself. And I remember, I walked out here, I walked in that barn, and I called Royce, and he's like, can I call you right back? And I'm like, no. And I was like, Royce, this horse doesn't feel like the way she was when you sold her to me. Like, I need a lesson. And he's like, I can't come down there. And I said, I don't care. I need it right now, like over the phone, like, please. So anyways, I end up on this dirt road, and I'm just sitting there just listening for 45 minutes. And he's telling me his process, or the way that he thinks, and I completely changed everything that I had.
Whoa.
And I really tried to mimic what the horse had grown up with. And after I felt like there was a click there, then I had a better idea of how to kind of migrate towards what we needed. And she was so stiff, you guys. This mare was so stiff, and never turned stiff. But you tried to say, hey, honey, like, bend a little, she'd be like, hell no. But you put your hand down, and she'd be like, hell yeah, you know? And so a good friend of mine, Mr. Gary Gonzalez, Double G, he worked her one day, and only my daddy, Mr. Sean Flynn, and Double G ever worked that horse. And so I told Mr. Gary, I said, hey, Gary, I'm having hell with this horse, you know? She don't want to bend nowhere. And he's like, all right, I'll see what I think. And he made 3 turns, and he said, get out of here with your problems. He's like, I got problems. He's like, try this horse and try that horse. And then, but watching it and being able to be vulnerable, and seeing it for yourself, with somebody that has no history with the horse, because a lot of times you go to work a horse, it's like you're remembering yesterday or last week, last month, last year. And so you're already got that tension in you about this is what the horse came from. Honestly, Sean Flynn saved my futurity. Sean Flynn won me the futurity.
Wow.
Yes, because after the second round, I asked him to work her, and I had somebody on the mare on Allspice out at the flag. And I said, Sean's coming to work her. Well, I went inside the practice pen to work a horse, and I came right back. Now my dad's on the horse.
Oh, no.
And my dad's my everything.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then here comes Sean walking from the Coliseum, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be awkward because my dad's probably going to feel like, why am I not working your horse, you know? And all people that care about me, you know, like, and so I decided to not even go over there. I literally chickened out, got on the fence, and I was like, I have no idea how this is going to go. But my dad was upset that she had a fly on her. So whoever was on her, he sent back to the attack room to get some fly spray. So my dad's trotting this horse around, waiting on me. And then I saw this mess happening, and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so scared right now. And Sean walks up to my dad, and my dad says, can I help you? And he says, I'm supposed to work this horse. And my dad's like, here you go. And then my dad looks at me, and he's like, you little shit, you know? But Sean just, he didn't do that much. And he just said, hey, like, you have to trust everything you've already done. Like, why are you so worried about today's work? You know, and if you've done 90% right and 1 or 2%, 10% isn't perfect that day, how in the hell can 10% outweigh the 90? You know, and he put it in perfect, like, it just clicked. And from that moment on, I never criticized her again.
Wow.
You know, and this is a guy that's trying to beat me, trying to win the futurity himself, he's got his own problems, but the camaraderie and the friendship that this industry brings should never be forgotten.
No.
You know,
That's
it's one of the most beautiful places to grow up or to stay a kid forever, you know, however you decide to look at it. Like, that's a real testimony on how fortunate we are to have people like this. If we would have put this much energy into anything else, we'd own NASA by now. You know, like, there's a lot that goes into it. And then during the middle of all your problems, absolutely I will. You know, absolutely I'll help you. You know, and some people don't have a shot in hell of winning. And you still go out of your way and you're like, yes, sir, for sure. I'd love to. And that's Christian.
Yeah.
You know, that's beautiful.
Yep.
And it's getting less and less, but at the same time, we shouldn't forget, nobody makes it on your own.
No.
Right.
Anybody that says I got where I got on my own is a liar,
Right.
you know, because at the very least, you've got God on your side,
Yes.
you know, and good luck doing it without that one. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful way to go about it. And I'm so happy that I'm doing this today, because all these things that I'm talking about are reminding me about how fortunate I am, just as much as I'm here for you guys. I'm also here to tell myself too, like, it's just a reminder of how beautiful of a life that we live.
Right. And that sportsmanship, like, that doesn't go like wasted or unnoticed. I mean, it's truly paying it forward for the next person. And I just, that is so admirable. That's absolutely incredible. Did you see that same type of sportsmanship, like, at the performance of, like, the American Performance Horseman, mouthful? Are the big names the same up there on that grand stage?
You know, everybody's got, everybody has their own way. Whether their intentions are good, whether their intentions are not. But as you go through this process, you know, for the last decade or whatever, I'm sure that if I would ask people that I don't normally ask, I'm sure their response would be helpful. But you grow closer to certain people.
Right.
And everybody that I competed against and with there was exactly the same way.
That's incredible.
That yes. And I'll tell you what, this Austin Shepherd, he's an angel.
Oh.
This man, so he was first,
Mm-hmm.
and they settled, Mr. Roy Carter settled them cows that day, like 4 hours before.
Oh, gosh.
So we have nothing to do.
No.
Okay, we only brought one horse. There's only 5 people competing. So we're just sitting around. And Austin didn't make a list. He was first. And his memory is great. And I asked him, I said, but what'd you think about them cows, this and that? And I said, I would never ask you what you like.
Yeah.
But if I mention a cow that I like, would you tell me yes or no? 'Cause I'm kind of shitting my pants on here a little bit. And he's like, yep. And the first 3 cows I mentioned were 3 out of his 5. So already right then it gives me a lot. I don't think this industry's ever seen anything like Austin Shepherd.
Right.
I really, really do not. And what he's had to overcome, and what he's had, the way he's accomplished things. And my mom worked, she still does for me, but she does therapy for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Austin's not a little guy, and his horses do as much or more than anybody else's horses. Mm-hmm. And I remember still being in the non-pro, and I'd talk to my mom. I'd be like, so whose horses don't feel very good, And
looking for that edge.
And we well, no, looking just out of curiosity. I didn't have enough to do.
Yeah.
I was in the non-pro, like I wanted to work more horses, but nobody would let me. So she told me one day, she's like, out of all the horses that I work on, the most consistently feeling good horses are Austin's.
Oh,
wow.
And those horses put out more effort.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Austin's not the smallest guy, and he's a winner,
Mm-hmm.
and he loves his horses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, 90% of the time, a horse can do the same maneuver, but if a horse is under stress, it'll affect him physically.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times a horse that is volunteering out of a good place in his heart and his mind can do way more and never stress himself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about, how you absorb the impact, and how you absorb the turn, and how you get pulled out of the turn by a cow, and this and that. And Austin's figured something out that it might take us many generations to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So having Allspice at the American competing against some of her siblings, I
got a
mean,
little
how did
sidetracked.
that feel?
Listen, you could drive a Lamborghini and a Rolls Royce had a baby in there, and you would not feel as good as riding in there on Allspice.
Mm-hmm.
This horse, she'd walk in there, and she'd be like, well, that's a lot of seats. She'd be like, they better fill up because I'm coming. And her confidence, she was a true queen.
Yeah.
Like she a kind one,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she walked into places and she was just like, "This is my house,"
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's pretty cool.
That
Very
is
cool.
awesome.
The thing I learned about your relationship with that mare
Mm-hmm.
at the time of the first American was that was the only female you had ever written a love letter to.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Where did that come from? I feel like she got retired before you got a chance to say goodbye.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So and it was right outside here. I was pulling in from somewhere, and man, I seen her get on the trailer, and I didn't really know she was done.
Uh-huh.
And but it is business. It was very professional the way that it was handled.
Right.
All good. And anybody that ever complains about a horse leaving, should remember they would never be sad if they never got the opportunity.
That's right.
So shame on anybody that's ever like, I can't believe I don't get to show that horse. Dude, you'd be crying way less if you never showed it in the first place.
That's right.
So keep your mouth shut, appreciate opportunity, and on we go. But that the fraternity is a big deal, and my dad's chased it, my uncles, my family, my friends, everybody's chased it. And her and I winning the fraternity really has nothing to do with the way that I feel about that horse.
Right.
It showed me that confidence wins, and that just because what we think is right or the right way to do it doesn't mean it's the best way.
Right.
And I told that horse, or asked that horse, to do it a lot of different ways. And every time that we did good or won, we did it her way. No matter how much BS I put in her head, she'd just be like, thank God that's over. Like, now you can't tell me nothing.
Yeah.
And she's just, there's things that are born with a purpose. And freaking genius.
Yeah.
This horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
A real genius.
She is out of Showbiz Kitty as our storyteller and Bad Boon Risings. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about Showbiz Kitty. She never even showed, did she? Or
She did.
She did a little?
She did, yes, ma'am. I think she won like maybe 10,000 or something.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure she had a full sister. And the gentleman that owned the two of them, one of them had won 15,000 and one of them had won 10,000. So Royce Stalkup, he was riding horse for that guy. So he took one of them two mares in a trade, or he bought her or whatever, but very cheap. And the owner at the time that owned both of them, he kept the one that had more earnings, which was 15,000 against 10. And Mr. Royce hit a gold mine.
Yeah.
And this is a man that, I mean, he's plowing half the day. He's, trying to get his buffalo in the right pen the other half, riding colts, like one of the most talented human beings, very secluded, out in the sticks, like, I don't know if you know where Seymour is and all that, but I mean, yes, like if they see a stoplight, it's like, welcome to Vegas, And so he got the mare, and that mare's incredible.
Yeah.
As a mama, because you could breed her. I mean, what we've seen so far, breed her just about anything, and the mama comes through. Which, thank God for my family, the same thing. My mama's like a Showbiz Kitty. But yeah, it's crazy how
I was telling everybody, we don't have a Dam of Distinction award for performance horses. We have it for race horses, and they have to produce a certain number of babies, win a certain amount of money, and a certain amount of stake races, and all of that. And I feel like there needs to be a Dam of Distinction award, because I feel like she would qualify just based off of three.
She would.
And are there? I didn't even look. Are there more babies out
Rolls
of
Royce?
Okay.
Is one of them, and I'm sure there's more, but I mean, look at Rolls Royce. You got Rolls Royce, Allspice, Bad Boon Horizon, Storyteller. Storyteller is a freak of nature. Like, this horse, he is so quick, man. It's incredible.
All right. Well, we ask everyone this question. You can call it another one of my loaded questions, but we've talked about a lot of good horses today. So, Adon, what makes a good horse to you?
A good horse would be a horse that you can feel how much information it's absorbed from the day before. A lot of horses, they get really good in a day, but they only carry a little bit to the next. and some horses, the really good ones, I feel like you don't feel like you taught a whole lot the day before, and they come out the next day so much better.
Yeah.
So we all want an athletic horse. We all want a horse that's integrity's high and this and that. But having a horse that really thinks about what they just did and can keep their attention span through the night into the next day, I would rather a horse like that than to have a horse that by the third count, it's the best horse I've ever seen. Like a horse that comes out and surprises you in a good way on the first turn, first cow is rare and phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be the best athlete.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the best bred one, but a horse's memory and how much attention they put through the night
Wow.
about it.
And they're
And
often.
they thought about it.
Yeah.
You can tell when a horse is like, oh, now here we go again. I better remember.
Yeah.
That's normal. But a horse that comes out and it's like, oh, I'm going to blow his socks off today,
They
and that's a good one.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
truly love what they do. Think about it in their
Yeah.
off time. Is there anything else we missed that you want to add?
Man,
about?
no, ma'am.
I have one question.
Okay.
Or I want to circle back to something. So you really, I feel like, understand what the purpose of this podcast is. When you touched on this a little earlier when you were talking about innovation time, and obviously you don't start on allspice, right? Nobody starts at that level.
Yes, ma'am.
So talking about the horses that came before that nobody knows their names, or maybe when you look at their papers, they're nobody, or their show records, they're, in quotes, nobody. So will you talk about that a little bit more, and, just what that means that you don't just start on a horse like allspice.
Yeah.
You don't just come out and ride a sister like Haley Kinsole. And
Yep. So I think, and that's important because, we all sign up to go down there and try to win, so if you look at the roster of people, and horses, but if you look up there and you see Austin Shepherd, Lloyd Cox, James Fay, Michael Cooper, all the greats, Tag, Ronnie, you look at all this, it's threatening. And sometimes the less you know, the better off you are. But I would say that one thing that I've always wanted to do and really tried hard to do is to put my foot in the stirrup more as much as possible. And so you never know when the next best thing is around the corner. You really don't. And you can look all the way from Einstein to Michael Jordan to the guy that invented the light bulb, all these people, somebody said no, and whatever coaches or whatever companies or whatever that believed in them, they got famous because of that being that was not good enough, and so I would strongly recommend that whenever you get off a horse, it stays there, and when you get on a horse blank page, even if you've struggled with the horse for 30 days before, you have to have a place in your mind to where yesterday is yesterday, the house is the house, the barn's the barn, this horse is this horse. And there's a lot of mistakes that we've all made in our lives that if people give us opportunity based off of the wrong things, we would get nowhere. So same thing with a horse is if when you get on a horse, you've got to be somewhat of an actor to pretend that I've never met you before, and because there's a lot of times that I wake up feeling like I'm way better than the day before, and when I get treated like I was yesterday, then it doesn't feel good, you know? And, so going to the young guys, man, there's so much that goes into this that you suffer. Like, you really do suffer psychologically, physically. Physically more because of the calories that you burn, but psychologically, it's hard that once your muscle memory gets trained, that your psychological side can keep up. You know, you've got to put in the muscle memory hours, but you could get frustrated or depressed in the meantime. So keeping your head fresh while your muscle memory gets trained and your mouth gets closed, because everybody wants to talk about it now. It's a God's honest truth. Everybody wants to talk about it, and everybody's looking for a good job. And being in the same arena with some of these phenomenal horse trainers, horsemen, is as good of a job as you should ever get, you know? And so I would say, don't take anything. If you got two eyes and you got two arms and legs, there's nothing keeping you from it. Besides humility, perseverance, God, and you gotta love your horses. You know, you've gotta love your horse, because we're not reiners, we're not cow horses, we're not ropers, we're not anybody that the steering wheel is just constantly, you know, the power steering fluid's full all the time. Put your hand down, and then you'll see what your horse thinks about you. And so another thing that I would say that's more important than any of it is the losses are the best lessons. And
Amen.
When you learn how to process a loss, you can practice it 100 times at home, but when it goes wrong in public, that lesson is embedded, is tattooed on your brain. And it's embarrassing, you know? And when I get a little bit nervous about people that are starting, about them winning too soon. And if they heard me say that, which I've told them anyways, it doesn't matter, but that it can cripple somebody. Because you're going to win when the stakes are low. And then when you get to an arena like Globe Life or like Will Rogers Futurity or whatever, and you don't know how to handle the pressure, you could have the very best horse. You could have the best cows. You will find a way to mess it up, you know, like going back to the don't look down thing, like make sure that humbly you put yourself in every opportunity possible. To be honest, I will gamble on which fly will poop on the wall first. Like, I love brains from all sizes. And so anybody that will ever laugh at you isn't a winner. You know? So why would you worry about looking for a good job or looking for like a ha-ha? If they say ha-ha, then they're not a winner. And if they say good job, they have too much time on their hands to kiss your ass. It's not worth kissing anyways. So just shh and do and go, pray and try. And that's it. You know, like there's horses out there that get overlooked. The quality of pedigrees and bloodlines that we have now to deal with is not like my daddy had. It's not like Ronnie Rice had. It's not like Mr. Bellenfant had, you know, or Mr. Buster. Those horses, those guys are great, you know, because those horses are not. These horses, they come out of the womb cutting, you know, and we can get in the way or we can promote it. Either way. Obviously, there's some that a little more challenging, and I don't want this to seem like it's all easy, but it's as hard as you make it. It's so easy that it's hard to do because we all have a fire in us that's trying to do something. You know, we all want to change our family's life, personal life. We all want to put a stamp on it. And I I don't even know if I answered your question, but
No, I think she did. Yeah,
it was amazing.
it was. Made her cry almost. I saw that.
So good. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Thank you, Adon.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
Awesome. That's all you
I
got.
think we're good.
Well, Adon, thank you. This has just been so insightful.
Thank
And
It's been
y'all.
great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
very much.
of course, thank you for being just a person who champions the values of our sport, the values of our way of life, and loving our American quarter horses like we do. So
yes, ma'am.
thank you for just sharing that with us today. It's been great.
No, thank y'all
Thank
for
you.
everything you do for us. Thank you very much.
Before we wrap up, a big thanks to our title sponsor.
With performance horses, every move matters. Your horses train hard every day, and you need ground that keeps them comfortable, sound, and confident. That's why professionals like Adon use Arena Works, because it works. It's easy to adjust, built to last, and keeps your horses working at their best. And no matter what you ride, cutting, cow horse, reining, or more, good ground makes all the difference. Arena Works is the official drag of NRHA, NRCHA, and AQHA, plus the go-to for Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, NSBA World, the Run for a Million, Shot, and more. To learn more, call 800-644-3724 or visit www.arenaworks.com. Arena Works, making dirt great again.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about the horses we discussed in this episode, visit AQHA.com/goodhorses. There you can explore the pedigrees, performance achievements, breeding history, and much more. It's the perfect place to dig deeper and stay connected with the American quarter horse. Don't forget to subscribe for updates and follow AQHA on social media.